Analysis. The effects of salt.
In fighting games, win quotes have traditionally been one of the few moments you can learn about a character's backstory and personality. But in the first Street Fighter, you would actually see a lose quote each time you defeated your opponent. The
Really?
first line is a compliment, but the very next sentence is pretty salty.
Oh, wait. Go back. What strength? But don't forget, there are many guys like you all over the world. Oh, dang. What a diss.
Compliment, but the very next sentence is pretty salty. Sometimes a lose quote can say more about
Wait. Don't be so proud. I pulled my punches when we fought. What? This is supposed to be like an insult? Like he's angry, he's pissed, and he's trying to, come up with some reason why some other reason why he lost than it was his own fault.
someone than their win quote, and this is why there's a Twitter user known as ScrubQuotesX whose feed is full of salty lose quotes from people who lost in a fighting game. Losing sucks, and it's why game developers have made all sorts of ways to make it suck less. There are now checkpoints, continues, difficulty levels, hints, and of course, the white Tanuki suit.
This everyone's a winner stuff is a bunch of bullshit. If you
What?
suck, you should lose.
Generally,
Bro, I had no idea like this suit was a thing. Like you just walk on top of mobs and you just delete them. I mean, this is essentially just like easy mode for Mario, you know? It's like you put the suit on when you want to introduce this game to someone that has literally never played games before. And you just want them to enjoy the game. Like, oh, this is a platformer, go hit the little question mark blocks. Oh, there's a mob there. And, you can like kind of, make believe like, oh, you're supposed to jump on that mob, and then, you delete him. You can still go through the motions, but like the suit represents just easy mode. That's all it is. And, this is that whole argument, like in Souls games, where there's no difficulty slider in Souls games. You just need to show up, all right? But then again, if I'm trying to peddle video games to someone that has never played video games before, the last type of game I would show them is a Souls-like game, all right? Because they would just get frustrated and then just stop playing, all right? It's not a good way to introduce new people into gaming. This white little whatever Tanuki suit is.
you can reduce the amount of losing by making a game easier to beat, but this doesn't work with head-to-head competitive games because both players are trying to win.
Okay, so the thing with fighting games is a lot of fighting games, I think now, and I guess it depends on the title, they have like a normal mode and a simple mode, If you're just trying to get into fighting games, and this is like your first fighter, the simple mode is essentially you can hit any button and spam that one button and it'll do some combos, it'll do some specials, and you can feel good just like spamming buttons. Now, this is like for the entry level player, someone that's never played like a fighter, all right? Everybody's been there. We've all been there. All right? Just like for football or any type of sports for kids, you don't put a little kid, you don't introduce the sport for a little kid. You don't make them fight against like adults in like the sport or whatever. That's the final end game goal or whatever. That's the end product. The top 0.1% of players in the sport. Okay? When you're trying to introduce somebody, you want to get them to like it. All right? Because seldom have I ever met someone that, like, as a little kid or, just getting into a new hobby, like, they're just like, I want to go the hardest version. Like, for golf, even. Like, in golf, there's, like, the tee. There's not just the one tee. It's, like, there's, like, 4 tees, and if, like, here's the hole, there's, like, the little kid one, the child one, the women's one, and the men's one. And, the men's is, like, the furthest one. And, it's, like, pick your difficulty, more or less. If you you get someone that's never played golf, just put them at the front one. Let them whack the ball a couple times. All right?
No matter how easy or accessible you make the game, one of the two players is going to lose.
Paper covers rock. This is my room. No!
This means one-on-one games will necessarily result in half the player base experiencing a loss at any given time.
Right.
And this generates a lot of salt and consequently a lot of complaints.
Okay, so by salt, he means like emotional damage. All right? A lot of anger, frustration. Ah, dang it.
You lose, you feel bad, and you stop playing.
Yeah.
DBFZ is
Okay, you lose, you feel bad, you stop playing. That's a very watered down argument, because if that was the case, for like any type of fighter, like there would only be like one guy that would ever play the fucking game. You have to go through a zillion losses, all right, to get to that point, in your fighting game career or whatever, to get the win that matters the one time. You go like what is happening?
really easy to play, but if someone's better than you, you don't get to play. Casuals just don't want to get steamrolled in a fighting game.
What is it about these
Casuals don't want to get seen. Okay, and this applies to FPSs too. All right, casuals, for the majority, and it's like the disparity is even greater in shooters than it is fighters, I would imagine, because at least in a fighting game, you can like kind of spam buttons or whatever, kicks, punches, moves, and still take away like health. And it's like, depending on what level of person you're versing or whatever, it's like they might win, but you'll have like done some damage to them or whatever, they might get a shot or two in. But like in FPSs, it's the same concept, but to an even greater degree, depending on, like if the shooter has been out for a long time, or I'm just gonna use like Apex as an example. What is it, like season 18 or whatever? It's been about 3 years of Apex, and there have been people playing since day one. All right, those people exist on controller, on MEK, whatever, doesn't matter. The company wants to have the best of both worlds. All right, they want to have a constant influx of new players, and they want those players to get good and strive to be like, a good player. They want them to go to ALGS, because that's like the lifespan, of like a player or whatever. But like trying to explain to a casual player that you have to go through a lot of losses is really tough for like a casual person to eat up, because maybe that casual person doesn't want to have to do anything to do with the competitive scene. They don't want to have to go. Maybe they don't even like doing ranked. Maybe they just like doing pubs. All right. But you have to understand that those people exist both in pubs and in ranked and whatever else. All right. So I don't know where I was going. I'm just ranting.
games that make people so salty to the point where salt is ingrained in fighting game culture, and
Yeah.
how does it affect us?
Okay, so I would say it's not just in fighting game culture. However, it is highlighted more in fighting game culture, especially within the last 10 years or so. Because the more fighting games or fighting game tournaments are streamed, they started to have the player cam, where, right here, you can see the players. Whereas before, maybe they didn't use the cameras because they're not too interested in the players. But now that, that drives a story behind the competition, ooh, this player, it's versus that player. They got a little rivalry going on. And because of that, it's a very individualized, game series or whatever genre where it's player versus player. Whereas in a lot of FPSs, it's team versus team. Your personality and behavior is more highlighted because it's simply 1v1.
I'll be salty after that because he
He hadn't won the previous round.
The controller destruction.
The answer lies in the heart of scrub quotes. If you look at these comments, there's an underlying theme that's repeated over and over again: fairness. Sense of fair play has been demonstrated by primates in an experiment involving two capuchin monkeys in cages next to each other. After being completely fine eating cucumbers, the monkey on the left sees the other one getting the more delicious grape for doing the same task.
She gives a rock to us now, gets again cucumber.
The result is primal rage. This inspired similar experiments like the one with wolves pressing a buzzer to get food. According to the researcher, when the inequity was greatest, they stopped working. I think he was so frustrated he broke the apparatus. The
Dang.
wolf literally rage quit and broke his controller. These parallels to human behavior might seem kind of funny, but the experiments were designed to put the animals in an actual unfair situation.
Yeah.
In fighting games, people get into situations that seem unfair, but it's usually because they're lacking certain knowledge or skill.
Right.
For example, if you don't know how to block in Street Fighter, it's simply impossible to escape this, because no amount of button mashing will change the situation.
And because of this, it's like whenever you go to like play a new game, like some sort of multiplayer versus game, you have to understand that there are probably going to be people that have played the game longer than you and know more about the game than you. And because of that, you have to be more willing to accept like a loss. And I'm the same way. Like, bro, like back in the day, I'm not trying to like high road or anything. Like I used to be a little shithead like back in the day. Like whenever I play Call of Duty, I would like curse up and down. With my friends in there, like, cause like back in the day you had that, the, what do you call it? The 2 or 3 seconds of like kill feed that whenever you killed a player, you could hear what they said like 2 seconds after. And it would always be like cursing and slurs and shit. And, you say some dumb shit. But yeah.
Salty guy might be compelled to say,
My buttons don't work.
if he learns his buttons work fine, he might accuse his opponent of playing dishonorably.
That move is broken.
I like to call this the Scrub Lord's Prayer, which goes like this. My controls weren't working, and if they were, you were playing dishonorably. And if you weren't, you were playing without skill.
Yeah.
And if you were, it's not fun to play that way. And if it is, then you only care about winning. We know all of this is nonsense because Guy just doesn't know how to block. Of course, it's easy to roll your eyes here because it's so patently obvious his salt is talking, but people can also say these things at higher levels of play. Blocking a sweep might be obvious to most of you, but not as many will understand why Ryu is able to hit Sagat here when his foot doesn't even come close to him.
Oh geez, wasn't that like some sort of disjointed hitbox or some shit?
Normally this attack will whiff crouching opponents because his kick is too high. Makes sense. But if you block an attack standing and crouch right afterwards, there's a brief moment where this game treats you like a standing opponent even when you're visibly crouching.
That's just a stupid mechanic. It doesn't make sense visually. Oh my god. I could understand why people would get pissed about that. That does seem a little weird for like a casual person to observe that and be like, how'd he hit him? But you know.
This is how Ryu is able to hit Sagat even when it looks like he's kicking the air. For players learning about this for the first time, it can understandably seem like an unfair exploitation of a glitchy game engine.
You're just exploiting a bug.
But for players who have seen this 100 times, it's just called fuzzy guard break, and it's an extra option that gives the game a pinch more depth without breaking it.
Oh.
Dashing under. Even on Cammy.
This is why people say get good. Things seem unfair until you find a good way to beat it. But maybe all this get good talk.
I didn't even know that. That's interesting. But I would ask, does the game do a good enough job to tell the player about that mechanic?
Talk sounds elitist. Is it possible that your complaint can be legitimate and not just a result of salt? Seth Killian had made the point that a win button for each player in a fighting game would actually be cheap. What's instructive about this thought experiment is that it reveals that the Scrub Lord's Prayer would mostly be correct in this case. Using the win button is dishonorable, takes no skill, isn't fun to play, and shows that the user truly only cares about winning. But notice that the game is still completely fair because both players have a win button, but also notice how this new win button is incredibly unfair for people who have learned how to play the game.
Oh yeah.
This win button really de-emphasizes footsies.
Get good, Scrub.
How can something be so fair and unfair at the same time?
Yeah, just that little example of competition with just a win button. Um, it in the conventional sense, this is not fun to watch because there's a win button. In real sports, there is no win button. You can do everything in your power to try to create a win situation or win button or whatever. But at least with real sports, there's like a visual thing of like a person doing something. With games, it's like a win button. It's like it's low effort, high reward. And I don't know, it just doesn't feel good.
It's because fairness can be interpreted in three very distinct, if not opposing ways.
Oh,
This is called sameness, which is the idea that something should either apply to everyone or apply to no one. We like sameness when it's there to start competitors on the same footing. Every player must win the same number of rounds to win a game, be able to choose the same character, and have access to the same buttons, even if it is a win button. We don't like sameness if it starts to hurt our individuality too much, for example, being forced to choose the same character. Kurt Vonnegut wrote a dystopian satire called Harrison Bergeron that described a society where everyone was forced to be the same. Smart people had to wear noise radios to distract their thoughts, the strong had to wear weights, and the beautiful had to be masked. Kurt Vonnegut probably preferred buffs over nerfs. The second concept of fairness is called deservedness. It's the idea that if you succeed through hard work, skill, creativity, or cunning, you deserve all that you earn, a kind of individual freedom. If you lab the game so much that you find an unorthodox strategy, a weird glitch, a deceptive hitbox, or an infinite hit combo, you see it as a potential tool or a thing to watch out for rather than calling the authorities. This Wild West mentality came from a time when games were very rarely patched and making complaints involved writing and sending an actual letter with a stamp you had to buy. The third type of fairness is need, which is the idea that the ones that are worse off should be given some sort of aid, sometimes at the expense of the well-off. You might have heard this referred to as social justice. This includes things like comeback mechanics, balance patches, damage scaling, and the infinite prevention system in Skullgirls that makes sure you can't loop a combo forever. These regulations are needed to make sure the game doesn't break and remain competitively viable, but of course, that can be pretty subjective.
yeah.
Oh my god, he is gone!
The reason why Street Fighter II's stun mechanic caused so much salt was because it violated the concept of need so badly. You're already doing bad because your opponent is constantly hitting you.
Okay, yeah, I get it. It's like you're already losing because your health is being taken away, and now you're gonna lose even more because you have this stun bar that's building up so quickly. Okay.
But then the game says, because you did so bad, now you don't get to move or defend yourself. Now watch as you get your ass beat more. The sort of laissez-faire rich gets richer mechanic felt so unjust, local arcades made arcane rules where you were not allowed to hit anyone who was stunned, basically saying,
Okay, I'm just gonna make an aside for like Apex because it just popped in my head. So like in Apex, you have excellent movement, excellent gunplay, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. You got momentum. Great. However, I can see this concept of like the need aspect being violated too much in Apex. And this is gonna sound a little whiny, but whatever. So when you're being shot in Apex, you're already losing. And on top of that, you have your momentum being broken or you're being like slowed. You can't build up momentum or anything like that because you have your bullets being taken. You're taking damage from bullets and it's stopping you from like creating any momentum to like freely move or whatever. So I can see that aspect having like a double, and it's even triple for like M and K, because when you have your shield broken, and you get headshot at all, even by like one bullet or whatever, your reticle just kicks up. And if you're playing M and K and your reticle just kicks up randomly because you took a headshot and your shield is out, you have to manually pull that thing right back down. So I can see this concept, you know, it's like one of the reasons why I don't play Apex anymore or whatever. It's just like it not only double dips, it triple dips into this whole like you're not only losing health, your momentum is being stopped, and if you take a headshot, your reticle's up. So you're just standing there looking like an idiot, and you can't do anything about it. You're about to get one clipped. So yeah, I mean, there's probably other things in like other shooters that are kind of like this. I never really thought about it in terms of like fighting games or whatever, but this is like good insight.
Sorry, but we don't play like that here. Made-up rules in arcades even happened in the old-school Korean Tekken scene, home of some of the best players in the world.
짠손 짠발이라든가 뭐 이런 기술들이 있어요. 그런 것들이랑 이제 쇼풍을 앉아서 기성화포로 때린다든가 이런 게 하면은 내가 노매너라 약간 이런 게 있었다고 하더라고요. 제가 할 때는 이제
People
좀
got
그런
better
것들이 점차
about it
누그러지고
when I played,
근데도 하면 약간
but you
눈치
could tell
보이는.
it bothered them.
Making your own personal rules to an existing game like this is like appointing yourself as Grand Chancellor of the game's developers and its community, but only having a jurisdiction limited to the handful of people who don't want to waste time arguing with you. If you want real change, you have to let the developer know. Thanks to social media, everyone with a smartphone can complain about anything to anyone, and because games are so often patched these days, it can have a real influence. It's no wonder the designers of Tekken felt they had to do this.
Is there anything you want to tell the Tekken community that's tuning in?
Don't ask me for shit. That's the dev for one of the devs for Tekken.
I guess this is all he wants to say.
But for game designers, complaining about existing games kind of becomes your job. The very same salt that came from the stun mechanic has been converted into one of the most iconic features in gaming history.
One of the things about Street Fighter that annoyed me and I loved was when you get the other guy dizzy. That was such a bad feeling, and it was such a good feeling when you're the guy who's attacking him. I want to have that good feeling, but I don't want to give the other guy the bad feeling. So we moved the dizzy to the end of the fight.
Oh. Good idea
for game designers,
Mortal
salt
Kombat.
can be a driver of innovation. One of the most salt-inducing moves back in the day was also one of the most basic, throws in Street Fighter 2. Once referred to as a dark art, throws had been a zero-sum winner-take-all move where the first person to press the button at close range would throw their opponent for a ton of damage and excellent positioning. Players that understood its instant activation and deceptive range would be able to toss around their opponents like ragdolls, and any OG from the arcade days can tell you about the fights that broke out because of it.
Oh my god, this is so funny. I never grew up in this time. I never went to any arcades because I didn't have any arcades around me. But oh my god, this sounds so cool. I wish I could have been there for the fights that broke out between people like arguing over throws. Like, oh, you can't throw me. That's illegal. You can't do that.
So when Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo came around, they introduced throw teching, where if you managed to input throw within 13 frames after your opponent did it, you would not only take half the damage, but literally land on your feet. This is the game lowering your salt levels by throwing you a bone and rewarding you for being close. Fast forward to modern fighting games, and now throw teching actually cancels the throw with no one getting hurt at all.
Dang.
And depending on the game, one of the players might be rewarded with a slight positional advantage. The thing to note here is that even the saltiest guy swimming in the Dead Sea while eating Dutch licorice is not going to complain about losing a slight positional advantage. This feels fair because it doesn't terribly violate any of the three concepts of fairness, and it might be why throw breaks have survived for so long. No one got salty enough to complain about it. Your modern fighting game and games in general are a culmination of innovations from past games to ensure that the needs of the ever-increasing player base are met. But long gone are the days of ruthless and punishing game designs with zero-sum gameplay that indiscriminately rewards one player and dumps all the salt onto the other. Who would want to go back to such a regressive time? Let me know in the comments the saltiest thing you've ever...
Bro, I remember so many times me and my buddy playing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and I would whoop his ass for hours on end, and he was such a trooper. Like I could hear him just like spamming the little Xbox controller buttons like, oh my god, the only reason you do all the damage is because I am stuck. You do the same combo all the time, and I get hit and you do the combo all the time, and I don't have a chance. Oh my god, that was the funniest thing. It's like, bro, that's the point of fighting games, is to do damage and do combos. Oh my god, it was the funniest thing ever.
Hey, Corey, what's up? Nothing. I was just in the middle of recording and you kind of messed me up, but I'm just kidding. It's fine. What's up? Oh, yeah? What's it called? Okay.
What?
Really? So apparently, in the dark trenches of the FGC, there's a competitive scene out there that plays one of the cruelest and most sadistic fighting games ever made. It was never released outside of Japan, and rumor has it that people who played the game suffered from hypernatremia, making it literally toxic. Released in 1994, the game is called Bishoujo Senshi Sailor Moon S.
What?
Yo. Oh, that was a dirty press up. Ooh. Oh my god. Oh my god, it did like 50%.
Fair. As you can see, these people make a mockery of fairness. This game has unbreakable throws, no damage scaling, invincible DPs with no accountability, dash canceling from any normal, guard canceling into any special, unlimited supers when low on health, and a fireball that does more damage on block than on hit, likely due to a programming error. Ever thought a character's dash was too good? Sailor Uranus thinks it sucks. Do you
That's
even
so
command
funny.
what it says?
Missing person, he needs to get in.
Oh no, this is bad.
Bro, there were actual like tournaments for this game. This just seems like the epitome of buff everything, nerf nothing. Oh my god.
It's definitely bad. He doesn't have the health.
But he might get it.
Oh!
And he's going for another one. I'm telling you.
He is.
Bro, it's so funny to see like the sailor chicks do like ninja moves. Because I unironically watched the show when I was a little kid, like years ago. And this was not how they fought.
And do you know why Sailor Mars is laughing here? It's because the company that can nerf her chip damage is dead.
10 seconds. Super chips him. Just in one.
This is the resulting anarchy that forms when there's no one to listen to what the zoning is cheating guy has to say. Sailor Moon S is the pre-John McCain MMA of fighting games. Adapt or get your eyes gouged out. It's amazing how the Toronto Sailor Moon community can enjoy such unregulated waifu cockfighting. It's almost as if they're part of a culture that celebrates salt as a driver of adaptation instead of a means to strong-arm game developers into patching out anything that seems remotely good. It's 2018. Get with the times already.
You're still pissed off about Mike Ross.
Damn right I am.
Oh man, that was so funny. Yeah, I mean everybody has experienced salt and anger and a bunch of emotions when they lose or whatever. The thing with that is like emotions are great when you're trying to like accomplish a thing or training for a thing or something. And I don't know, I'm just gonna use like aim training in there. It's like a lot of the times whenever I'm like aim training, I'm not gonna lie, like there's like if I play like a scenario for a couple hours and I have like no signs of progress or anything, like I like in the beginning, like the first couple 100 hours, I would get like fucking pissed or whatever. And it's like I could not understand like what I was doing wrong. But after a while, then you just keep grinding and you keep grinding and you slowly figure out what you're doing wrong. It's like you figure out how to problem solve yourself. And I don't know, it gets easier. So it's just keep grinding, man, for a lot of these games or whatever. But yeah, there's a great video. 5 years ago, it's still relevant today. I don't know why I never seen this before. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, take it easy, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Later.